Find the directional derivative of f of xy equals negative 4xy minus quarter x to the fourth minus quarter y to the fourth at the point 1, 0 in the direction of the vector. Well, you have half square root of 2i minus half square root of 2j. Alright. So you're going to be finding the directional derivative. Directional means in the direction of something, in this case this vector, the direction of this vector. What it is derivative. You know, when you find the derivative, you differentiate and find what is called the gradient function. So what you're going to do is find the gradient of this function. Alright? To find the gradient of the function, you differentiate. But remember now, you're acting in the directions x and y. So when you have a vector, you have the direction of x is I, the direction of y is j. So if you have your x, your y, and z axis, well, in this case, this z would be our f of x comma y axis. You have I in the direction of x, j in the direction of y, and k in the direction of f of xy, which we can call z. Alright? But anyway, here we find the gradient of the function. And the gradient of the function is going to be scalar, because we're finding the gradient of this function and finding the dot product of that with this thing there, this vector. Alright? So the gradient of the function that the vector, but you can't multiply the gradient of the function by the full vector. It must be the unit vector, so you put a little hat over v to say it's unit vector. Or you find the unit vector, same like how you find the unit number. If you have 5 and you want the unit number, which is what? It's 1. You divide it by the magnitude of 5. 5 over 5 is 1. Right? And any number you multiply by 1 gives you back the same number. So if you multiply a number by the unit number, you get back the same number, the size of it. If you multiply a vector by the unit vector, you get back the same vector, at least the size of it. Alright? So you say this is, the way they write it is the directional derivative in the direction of u, the vector, of the function, which is duf of that. Now, here, the gradient of the function, the gradient of f, is going to be the derivative of a function with respect to x in the x direction I plus the derivative of the function in the direction of y with respect to j, in the direction j, the direction of y, which is j. Right? And remember that the unit vector is going to be the vector itself over its magnitude. How do you find the magnitude of a vector again? If you have a vector A in the direction of I plus B in the direction J, the magnitude, if this is V, the magnitude of V would be, now remember, like you're using Pythagoras here. This is I, this is J, and this would be the magnitude, hypotenuse. So the hypotenuse is the square root of a squared plus b squared. I goes in the direction of a, b of I, b goes in the direction of j. So this is a long and this is b long. So the hypotenuse would be square root of a squared plus b squared, right? Now, let's go back to this. Here, we're going to differentiate with respect to x, and in the I direction, put I there, multiply by I plus, differentiate it with respect to y, multiply by j. That will give you the gradient. And then you deal with this. This ai, which would be half square root of 2i, plus negative, which would be minus half square root of 2j. Alright, finish it off for me. Pause the video, write it down and finish it off for me. Okay, so you did that, you're finished. Let's work through the question together now. So, the gradient of the function is, when you differentiate the function with respect to x, you're going to get negative 4y, that's negative 4y, well, there's no x here, so this is part is 0, because you're treating y as if it's a constant. So a quarter y to the fourth is a constant, so it's 0. I plus, alright, so you differentiate the function with respect to y now, times j. Oh, there are 3 parts to it. There's a y out here. I missed that part, you know. Hold on. Let's go back to it. We have, when you differentiate with respect to x, we get negative 4. And then there's an x here. I skipped over this part earlier. Differentiate with respect to x, you're going to get negative quarter by 4 x to the 3. Right. So it's negative a quarter times 4 x to the 3. Because you multiply by the old power and then reduce the old power by 1 to get the new power. But there's no x here. So this is 0. So it's that I plus something else will happen now, j. You differentiate with respect to y. When you differentiate this part with respect to y, you get negative 4x, alright? Negative 4x. Differentiate this part with respect to y, this is 0 because there is no y here. But this part now is going to be negative a quarter by 4 y to the 4th. It's negative a quarter times 4 y to the 4th. J. Alright? So that's what we have there. You can simplify it and say the grad of f is equal to, it should be, let's put the x part first. Negative a quarter by 4 is 1. So it's negative x squared minus 4y I plus, then what happened here? Negative 4x minus, hold on, it's x cubed. Why I get x squared? It's cubed, you know. And then, oh, I realize this y to the 4th, it should be y to the 3. Right, y to the 3. So here now, because it's y to the 3 because remember, we had quarter by y to the 4, you multiply by the old power, then you reduce the old power by 1 to get the new power, so it goes from 4 to 3. So it's going to be negative a quarter by 4 is 1. So this is y to the 3j. So that's the grad f. Alright? And then this now, the unit vector. What is the unit vector? Let's write back v. V is half square root of 2i minus half square root of 2j. So v is half square root of 2i minus half square root of 2j. So the magnitude of v is going to be the square root of, going to be half square root of 2 squared, right, plus negative half square root of 2 squared. See that? So it's going to be, now is the square root of, let's see what happened here. Half squared is a quarter. Square root of 2 squared is 2. So it's a quarter times 2. So it's 2 over 4 then. So this is 2 over 4. 2 over 4 plus. This is going to be the same thing, you know. Half squared is a quarter. Negative half squared is a quarter. Square root of 2 squared. So you multiply that and it's 2 over 4. When we cancel down, this is a half plus half. Right? So 2 over 4 is 1 over 2 and plus 1 over 2. A half plus half is 1. The square root of 1, which is 1. That will make our work easier. When we get the magnitude of the vector as 1, because it means that the unit vector is going to be the vector over 1, which is the vector itself. Nice. Now we're going to dot product. So it's grad f dot unit vector is going to be negative x cubed minus 4y I plus negative 4x minus y cubed j, right? We dot product that with the vector half, well, instead of writing half square root of 2, just square root of 2 over 2i minus square root of 2 over 2j. So we have these. Oh, by the way, guess what? They say at the point 1, 2. Now, I mean 1, 0. So that makes it even easier for us. Because we have a point here, because we're just going to substitute 1 for x and 0 for y. It will simplify the working quite a lot. So, x is 1, y is 0. Alright? So, therefore, grad dot the gradient vector of x of f dot unit vector is x is 1. 1 cube is 1, so it's negative 1. Y is 0. Okay, so in this case, it's just negative 1 I. See that part? Then x is 1, so it's negative 4. It's minus 4 times 1. Y is 0, so this part goes to 0. So it's negative 4j. Alright? Nice. And you dot that with, so this is going to be square root of 2 over 2. So, what you have? Guess what? We have square root of 2 over 2i times square root of 2 over 2j. Right? What we could do, you know, is just factor out The square root of 2 over 2, but let's do that later on. Square root of 2 over 2i minus square root of 2 over 2j. Remember, with that product, it's the coefficient of I times the coefficient of I plus coefficient of j times the coefficient of j. And that's that, alright? That's the dot product. So this is equal to now negative 1 times square root of 2 over 2 is just square root of 2 over 2 negative, and then negative 4 times negative, so it's going to be positive now. Negative 4, so it's 4 square root of 2 over 2. Nice. Let's write it in third form. We could write it in third form there. Equal. Notice the square root of 2 over 2, you could factor it out now. Square root of 2 over 2, open bracket, this would be negative 1 plus 4. So what will happen here? The square root of 2 over 2 multiply by 3. So, I say by 3 and I write 4 by 3. So it's 3 square root of 2 over 2 then. That's one way of putting it. Alright? Nice. So we have our directional derivative. Alright, so that's our directional derivative there. So that's that.